Hi. So, as promised, I am going to expand upon the impact and realities of Trump's tariffs in the United States. By January 2026, research shows most products Americans purchase are affected by Trump's tariffs. For instance, there's a 50% tariff on steel, aluminum, copper, and cabinets, and a 100% tariff on branded or patented drugs, unless the manufacturer builds a factory in the United States. Shoes and clothing are up to 40% higher. Food, 10%, and in some instances, 25% higher or more. If you're not noticing a substantial increase, better look in your bank account and see how much less you have. Better review your grocery receipts and see if that's made an impact to you at all, because I believe that either you're not looking or you're too rich to care. So let's try to understand the tariffs and who really pays. Okay, so for goods that we import, goods that we take in, that we buy from other countries, okay, in practice, it is the importer who pays the tariffs when bringing goods into the United States. This means that American companies importing products from abroad are responsible for the additional costs imposed by these tariffs. As a result, these costs often get passed on to the consumer, you, in the form of higher prices for goods and services. So, regarding the goods that we export, the introduction of tariffs has had significant effects on American farmers and manufacturers who export goods. Many have lost their market share to competitors in, for instance, China, as higher prices make their goods less competitive in both domestic and international markets. This shift has led to decreased sales and economic challenges for these industries, further highlighting the broader consequences of tariff policies. Okay, but you say, Trump says that inflation is down. Well, when people say inflation is down, they mean that the rate of increase in prices has slowed. So the rate has slowed down, not necessarily that prices themselves have decreased. In contrast, price refers to the actual amount of money required to purchase a specific good or service at a given time, while inflation measures the change in prices over time. Price is the current cost at the particular moment. So prices have not decreased. Okay. So you're saying, well, this is all about bringing businesses back to America. Okay, the hope is that by shifting manufacturing and other business operations back to the United States, jobs will be created and the local economy will be strengthened. However, recent data and experiences suggest that the expected benefits have not materialized as promised. Instead of job creation, there has been significant losses in manufacturing employment, and American producers have struggled to compete both at home and abroad due to rising costs. The push is bringing back businesses is rooted in a desire for economic stability and growth, but it faces significant obstacles in practice, including increased household expenses and reduced market competitiveness. So let's then talk about monopolies and corporate greed. How would you like the worst services at the highest prices? Okay, consider what happens when an American company holds a monopoly and faces no competition. For example, how much competition does your electric company have? In some cases, the lack of alternatives can lead to higher prices, often blamed on corporate greed. And I'm hoping we all know and have experienced corporate greed when companies hold the monopoly. Okay, now we're also saying that bringing jobs back home and the reasons for tariffs will mean more jobs for the American people. So while President Trump has claimed that tariffs will boost jobs, data shows that 72,000 manufacturing jobs were lost last year, casting doubt on this whole assertion. Okay, what are the economic consequences for Americans? The expectation is that tariffs will encourage Americans to support the local economy. That is just not happening. One noted example of the difficulties encountered in efforts to revitalize American manufacturing involves the Hyundai battery plant in Georgia. In this case, 300 highly skilled workers from Korea were brought in to support the launch of the facility and to train American employees in specialized operations. The intention was for these experts to pass on their knowledge and skills before returning to Korea, ensuring a smooth transition and long-term success for the plant. However, these Korean workers faced significant obstacles upon arrival. ICE arrested and detained them, subjecting them to poor conditions during their detention. The Department of Homeland Security bragged this as the largest single-site immigration enforcement operation in its history. So, where does the tariff revenue go? Questions arise about the destination of tariff revenues. Where does it all go? The funds go into the government's general fund and may be used to pay down the national debt, but their impact is minimal compared to the overall deficit. For example, while the Congressional Budget Office estimates tariffs could generate $2 to $3 trillion over the next 10 years, again, you, the Americans, are paying this $2 to $3 trillion. This falls short of paying off the $22 trillion deficit. Furthermore, there have been significant tax cuts for the wealthy during this period. The president has described tariff as a tax on foreign countries, but in reality, it's Americans who absorb most of the cost. So moving on to tariffs and household expenses. Tariffs have increased expenses for American households by $1,300 to $3,000 last year. Well, I guess the president is saying that we'll be getting substantial tax refunds. While substantial tax refunds are anticipated for many Americans, the reality for those living paycheck to paycheck is starkly different. Many households find themselves relying on credit cards to pay for essential items, such as groceries, highlighting the financial strain faced by a significant portion of the population. Ideally, Americans should have enough disposable income to cover basic needs without resorting to credit. However, the current situation forces many to wait until their tax refunds are issued, only to use those funds to pay down the credit card debt they incurred just to afford to buy groceries. This cycle underscores the gap between financial relief provided by tax refunds and immediate needs of everyday consumers. Okay, so the feasibility of replacing income tax with tariffs. So you're hoping that with all these tariffs, you won't need to pay income taxes anymore. Some have suggested that revenue from tariffs could eliminate the need for income taxes. However, this would require tariff rates to rise above 60%. While this might eliminate income tax payments, it would also result in all bills being approximately 60% higher, negating any personal benefit. So, some blame Clinton's free trade policies for driving away American businesses. Well, this was in 1993 when this policy was enacted. 1993, 33 years ago. Attributing current challenges solely to the policies of the past disregard the evolving nature of global economy. Technological advances, shifts in labor markets, and the emergence of new economic competitors have all played significant roles in shaping present-day trade dynamics. What were the technical advances since then? The modern smartphone, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, social media and video sharing, cloud computing, 3D printing? America is one of the richest countries in the world, but baby boomers are still referring to when Clinton was in office. The bottom line for consumers. Ultimately, every dollar of tariff revenue is a dollar that comes out of your pocket. Higher prices, fewer choices. Higher prices, fewer choices for the American people. Thanks for listening.